On June 13th, 1929, Our Lady appeared to Sister Lucia, and she said, "The moment is come in which God asked the Holy Father, in union with all the bishops throughout the whole world, to consecrate Russia, and a certain period of peace will be granted to mankind."
With humanity's fate possibly hanging in the balance, Lucia relayed her urgent message to the then Pope Pius XI, as was predicted. But the Pope decided not to carry out the order.
For some reason, the Pope believed in them, but he didn't act on that consecration. And some feel, in fact, even Sister Lucia did mention this, that that delay allowed the evils of communism to spread.
But most historians would disagree, instead blaming the spread of communism on the growing strength of the Soviet Union. By 1941, the Second World War raged throughout Europe. Millions were suffering under the growing terror of the Soviet Union's oppressive communist system. Millions more were dying on battlefields and in concentration camps. In an attempt to stop the devastation, the next Pope, Pius XII, proceeded with the consecration of Russia.
Pope Pius XII did make the first consecration of Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. But as Lucia then said, it was not done according to what Our Lady had requested, because it was made by the Pope himself, not in union with all the bishops around the world.
Mary's order was still unfulfilled. Two more attempts at consecration were made in 1952 and 1964, but according to the distraught Sister Lucia, God remained displeased, and the world would suffer for it.
Because the consecration didn't take place when God wished it to take place, Russia spread her errors throughout the world.
Just as the apparition of Mary had allegedly warned, China became a communist state in 1949. Fidel Castro officially declared Cuba communist in 1961. By the early 1980s, nearly a third of the world's population lived under communist rule. Russia had successfully spread communism and atheism. Some Bible experts suggest that the spread of communism was also foretold in the Book of Revelation, sometimes called the Book of the Apocalypse.
In Apocalypse 12, verse 3, it talks about a great red dragon, and he swept a third of the stars. And what's also interesting is at the height of its power, the Communist Empire held about a third of the world's population.
But is this hard evidence that multiple prophecies had converged with actual events, and that the second secret may have foretold of the spread of communism? In the meantime, a third and more horrifying secret was yet to be divulged, one that, according to believers, could play out in our own lifetimes.
In 1941, Sister Lucia wrote down the first two secrets at the request of the Bishop of Liera Fatima. And the Bishop said to Sister Lucia later on, "There's more, we know there's more."
When Sister Lucia fell ill in 1943, the Bishop ordered her to write down the third secret that she'd kept hidden for so many years. She complied, but the world would have to wait a little longer. She wrote out the secret and sealed it in an envelope, requesting that it only be opened in 1960 or upon her death. But why 1960? And what were the explosive contents within this envelope? A widely believed account suggests that in 1917, an apparition of the Virgin Mary appeared to 3 children in the small Portuguese village of Fatima. The Virgin shared with them 3 secrets containing a series of ominous prophecies. By 1960, many devout Catholics around the world were certain that the prophecies in the first 2 secrets had already come true. But the third secret, and any prophecies it held, remained a mystery. Equally mysterious was Sister Lucia's directive that the third secret not be revealed until 1960, when she said the world could properly interpret it.
Every subsequent pope after that was given the secret to read in a sealed envelope. The Pope read the secret and decided whether the time was right to reveal that secret or not. And most of the popes after that said, the time's not right yet. They sealed it back up again, and they put it back in the Vatican archives.
Many wonder why the Vatican apparently went against Lucia's wishes to reveal the secret in 1960. Public speculation about its contents ranged from nuclear Armageddon to deep rifts within the Catholic Church itself. 1960 was the height of the Cold War. The United States was locked in a nuclear stalemate with the Soviet Union. The spread of communism loomed, a direct result of the Second World War. When Cuba fell to communist rebels, Marxist ideology gained a foothold in the Western Hemisphere.
There was this domino theory that once one country becomes communist, it falls like a domino, and then another country becomes communist, and another, and another, and another.
In response, the CIA planned the Bay of Pigs invasion to overthrow Fidel Castro's Cuban regime.
This government will do everything it possibly can to make sure that there are no Americans involved in the action.
But the attempted coup failed. Tensions between the US and Cuba's sponsor, the Soviet Union, escalated. Those who believed in the prophecies of Fatima feared that the threat of nuclear war was perhaps the third secret of the prophecy. Still others suspected that the third and final secret pertains specifically to the Catholic Church itself. And this, according to some, could be a link to the predictions of 16th century mystic Nostradamus. Nostradamus seemed to write about the papacy in quatrains that have intrigued scholars ever since. After the seat is held 17 years, 5 will change in like elapsed terms. Then will 1 be elected in similar times, to whom the Romans will not much conform. Pope Pius XI, the one apparently prophesied in Lucia's account of the second secret of Fatima, held the Holy Seat for 17 years, exactly the amount of time mentioned in Nostradamus's prediction. And it was during his pontificate that the Second World War began. As was also predicted by the second secret, according to Lucia. Could this be a previously unexplored connection between the 3 secrets of Fatima and Nostradamus? 5 will change in like elapsed terms. Then will 1 be elected in similar times, to whom the Romans will not much conform. The 5th Pope after Pius XI was Pope John Paul II, the first non-Italian pontiff in 450 years. Many Catholics believe that John Paul is the actual subject of the third secret of Fatima.
Pope John Paul II, his motto was totus tuus, I am all yours. His pontificate was dedicated to Our Lady. John Paul II said the message of Fatima is more important today than ever.
But what is that message? Some experts believe the third and final secret reveals a corruption of the Vatican, an abandonment of the principles of the Scriptures, and the eventual demise of the Catholic Church.
Apostasy is a giving up of the real Catholic faith completely, seemingly happening inside the Catholic Church and starting from the very top.
For over 80 years, the enduring mystery of the third secret has defied explanation. This is because the second secret supposedly claimed that if Russia was not consecrated, nations would be destroyed. Many Catholics feared the final secret contained a horrific prophecy foretelling of a nuclear war. Then, on the 13th of May 2000, the 83rd anniversary of the first apparition, the Vatican announced to the world that the third secret would finally be revealed. The Vatican published the mysterious contents of Sister Lucia's letter received in 1944. which detailed the final prophecy. The first part of the third secret told of an averted disaster.
We saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing, it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire. But they died out in contact with the splendor that Our Lady radiated towards him from her right hand.
It conveyed the idea that a terrible fire would engulf the earth. And as the angel was ready to touch the earth with the flaming sword, the Blessed Mother put her hand out and stopped the sword from touching the world. I believe she saved us from a possible atomic war.
Was this a prophecy for the future or the past? When writing the letter, Sister Lucia had warned that it should not be opened until 1960. Was there a connection between that date and the Virgin Mary's prophecy of world annihilation? On the 17th of April 1961, the US launched its failed Bay of Pigs invasion on the southern shores of Cuba. This seminal event led directly to the Cuban Missile Crisis of October 1962, where the world's first nuclear superpowers engaged in a standoff that had the potential to destroy the world as we know it.
Russia had brought atomic missiles to Cuba so close to our shoreline, and President John F. Kennedy said, look, no way. We want those missiles out of there right away. And Russia said, it's not going to happen. We knew we had the gun pointed at our heads.
Turn back. It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States.
Kennedy had made it very clear in a televised address that if a missile comes from Cuba, we will react as if it had come from Moscow. So if those missiles had come from Cuba, we would have sent nuclear missiles to the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union would have responded back. And so it would have been worldwide annihilation.
Historians believe that the diplomatic skills of President John F. Kennedy, coincidentally the United States' first and only Catholic president, prevented a catastrophic nuclear exchange. Since the 1980s, communism has retreated, and today, relations between the US and Russia have softened considerably. Most historians attribute this cooperation to the fall of the Soviet Union. But devout Catholics give some of the credit to one of their most beloved pontiffs, Pope John Paul II, and his deep personal link to Lucia and the third secret of Fatima.
Pope John Paul saw himself in that particular secret.
As one of the Vatican's most important figures since the 1960s, the Pope may have known the third secret for decades, but only upon its momentous revelation did his connection to it finally become clear. Lucia's recollection of the third secret continued.
A bishop dressed in white. We had the impression that it was the Holy Father. The Holy Father passed through a big city, half in ruins. Having reached the top of the mountain, he and all the other religious figures are slain by bursts of bullets and arrows.
To many, this portion of the third secret describes the events of the 13th of May 1981, exactly 64 years after the Virgin Mary's first reported appearance in Fatima. 20,000 devotees lined St. Peter's Square for the papal address. Suddenly, shots rang out as a gunman attempted to kill Pope John Paul II.
As he was recuperating for about 3 weeks, he asked for all of the documentation on Fatima to be brought to him.
This attempted assassination provoked the Holy Father to re-examine the third secret. And it occurred to him that this secret was about him, and that it was fulfilled with this attempted assassination.
He said, according to that apparition, I would have died, but I came to the threshold of death and the Blessed Mother prevented me. And he said that Our Lady guided that bullet all through him. The bullet missed major organs in the body of the Holy Father by just fractions and fractions of an inch.
A second attempt on the Pope's life came a year later during a visit to, of all places, Fatima in Portugal. A Catholic priest tried to stab the Pope with a bayonet, but was thwarted by security. Soon after the second assassination attempt, John Paul decided it was time to consecrate Russia properly.
He wrote a letter to all the bishops, including the Orthodox bishops, inviting them to join him for the consecration of the world, including Russia, to the Immaculate Heart of Mary.
On the 25th of March 1984, over 50 years after Lucia first appealed to the Catholic Church, the Vatican granted consecration to Russia.
And Sister Lucia said, "Yes, Holy Father, heaven has accepted the consecration." And then many things took place after that that were so wonderful. Gorbachev comes into power, he has a change of heart, and he decides that he wants to go and visit the Pope.
Mikhail Gorbachev, with a KGB background, the most powerful communist dictator in the world, his heart was softened. His intellect was enlightened. He saw truth.
Many experts disagree that the collapse of the former Soviet Union was divine intervention. They say instead that it was Russia's strategy of self-preservation and survival in a rapidly changing world.
The Soviet Union had been a stagnant country and a stagnant economy for about 20 years when Gorbachev finally got in power. The economy was failing. I mean, people were waiting in line hours just for bread and for toilet paper. He wanted to bring that sense of openness and restructuring because he realized he had to. Mikhail Gorbachev didn't have a change of heart about communism. It was simply a reform that got out of hand.
Still, some suspect a higher power at work to re-establish religious practices in a region that had been oppressed for over 70 years.
Consider the most atheistic country in the world, forcing atheism everywhere. Gorbachev visits the Pope, the flag comes down over communist Russia for the last time, the wall comes down, and religious freedom is again practiced in Russia, and today the spiritual resurgence in Russia is absolutely phenomenal.
Is it possible that these decisive moments, from the Cuban Missile Crisis to the Cold War, the assassination attempts on the Pope, and also the fall of communism, are all mere coincidence? Or could they be the final fulfillment of the Fatima prophecy?
By 1989, the Berlin Wall came down without a battle. The people who put it up took it down. That's a conversion. It's a change of heart.
It ended the Cold War, and it ended that immediate threat of nuclear annihilation that had really hung over the world since the early 1950s.
Some maintain that there is a further, darker prophecy held in the Third Secret, and that this mystery is not yet resolved. Why do many still believe the Fatima prophecy relates to a Third World War? They are one of the most enduring and mysterious controversies of the Catholic Church, the prophecies of Fatima.
I think there is so much controversy and speculation because we, human beings, we want to see things clearly, and so we need to look for answers.
We're at a crossroads, and one direction will lead to world peace, and if we choose the wrong direction, it will lead to wars so terrible that nations will be annihilated.
The first secret foretold souls burning in hell. The second secret warned of a devastating war. Believers say both of these seem to have been realized as the First and Second World Wars. But some say the third prophecy remains unfulfilled. If so, what hidden truths may lie in the Vatican vault?
There are still some people, some groups who deny that the full text has been revealed and that the Vatican has kept something hidden.
The Vatican released what they said was the third secret on June 26, 2000. And it can't be the third secret. A person who got a chance to look at the third secret said that the third secret is about 20 to 25 lines. The Vatican's version of the third secret of Fatima is 62 lines. The Vatican's version of their third secret doesn't contain any signature at the end of that by Sister Lucia. And all the letters we know of, the authentic ones from Sister Lucia, have her signature at the end.
There are those who believe this supposedly still hidden part of the third secret contains a prophecy of future annihilation, perhaps a nuclear exchange. But most Vatican supporters are satisfied that the Church has adequately revealed the words of Sister Lucia's apparition of the Virgin Mary.
Thinking that the third secret has not been revealed in its entirety is sensationalism. The third secret's been revealed in its entirety because the Vatican has Lucia's original written in Portuguese. You know, and you go on the internet and find it.
Pope John Paul II said the message was given. The present Holy Father, Pope Benedict XVI, said the whole message has been given. Sister Lucia, I understand from people who knew her, was very upset when people said the whole message was not given.
On the 13th of February 2005, after a lifetime satisfying what she believed were the Virgin Mary's wishes to spread the message of Fatima, Sister Lucia died of natural causes at the age of 97. 2 months later, Pope John Paul II also died, aged 84. Today, the Vatican continues to uphold its belief in the events that took place in Fatima in 1917.
Pope Benedict XVI wrote a complete, comprehensive explanation of Fatima. The apparitions have the approval of the Church. All of the prophecies have come true.
But for some, questions remain about whether the prophecies are complete. They believe we may still be heading for global annihilation.
The prophecy has two sides to it. Either there will be war so terrible that nations will be annihilated, or there will be world peace.
To the Catholic Church and believers in the prophecy, the message of Fatima remains urgent.
The message that Our Lady came to bring, it's often called the peace plan from heaven. Mary came to tell us that we have to live responsible lives.
The apparitions of Our Lady of Fatima were one way among many of God coming into our world and saying, watch out, there's something which is not going well. The world is in danger. We are not happy with what is going on.
Has the third secret been totally revealed, or is there more, as some believe, hidden in the long shadow of the Vatican?
When you look at our country today, and I'm talking about the United States, we are perched on the precipice of the annihilation of nations Our Lady warned of. But annihilation, when you say that word, a mushroom cloud comes to people's minds and everything being blown up. But that's only one way to annihilate a nation. If you decimate the economy of a nation, you annihilate it.
Interpreters of events today suggest that there is that possibility, with financial markets in continued crisis and nuclear weapons in the hands of radical extremists.
The United States is the only country that has ever used nuclear weapons, and I think once a second country does it, it'll be much easier for the third and then the fourth and then the fifth one to do it.
Others suggest that there's an opportunity to successfully change course.
The real question is whether we use our free will to bring world peace to Earth first.
As the world's two leading nuclear powers, the United States and Russia must lead by example.
Or whether we use our free will to bring hell to Earth first. Because what's at stake is the salvation of souls and world peace. And what could be more important to humanity than the salvation of souls and world peace?
If the Fatima prophecy converges with peace amongst nations, this may serve as a final vindication of the three children and their vision.